Another new helper is the helper that renders partial views. This is the HTML.partial helper. Now, partial views are just like the partial views that you've used with the Web Forms View engine. They typically contain reusable markup and code that you want to place into several different pages. So you extract those pieces, you put them in a partial view, and then you render that partial view from different pages. When you render a partial view, you can pass in model data, you can strongly type a partial view, and one significant difference with this HTML.partial helper compared to HTML.renderPartial, which you might have used in the past, is that HTML.partial returns a string that is put into the output at that location, whereas HTML.renderPartial used to write directly into the response.output. What is nice about this new behavior is that HTML.partial now behaves like the other HTML helpers. It returns a string. It doesn't have to write directly into that response object. Let's replace the HTML markup that we have inside of this for each loop with a partial view. I'm going to right-click on the home folder and select Add View. By placing this partial view inside the home folder, it's only going to be available to views that are also inside of that home folder. If I create it in the shared folder, it would be available for views across the entire application. This is the same convention that is used by the Web Forms View engine. I'm going to call this _instructor. My convention is to name partial views with a leading underscore. You don't have to follow that convention, but as you'll find out in just a bit, it makes it easier to figure out what is a regular view and what is a partial view. The view engine is going to be Razor, and this time we will create a strongly typed view. My model is going to be of type instructor, and we'll go ahead and do some scaffolding. I will let Visual Studio scaffold up a details view of the instructor for me. This is going to be a partial view. So once I click Add, you can notice that we have a strongly typed partial view. There's the @model directive. The scaffolding has built up a field set for me. It basically looked at all of the properties that are available on that model object and emitted some UI pieces for each property that was available. It also included some action links at the bottom. One change we'll have to make here is to use HTML.raw to make sure that the description does not become HTML encoded. So let me save that, but before I move away, notice that partial views with the Razor View engine have the same extension as regular views, .cshtml. This is why I like to use some sort of naming convention to easily identify the partial views. But it's also nice that we don't have partial views and regular views and like in web forms where you had to use two different file extensions. Everything is just a template, everything is just a view. To use this view, I'll come back into the main view and replace all of the markup we have inside of here with HTML.partial. Not render partial, but just partial. However, just like the render partial API, I pass in the name of the view that I want to render without the file extension, and I can optionally pass in the model to use. In this case, the model will not be optional. So let's pass that in and refresh the browser. And you can see that everything is working as expected here. And we also have a nice reusable partial view that we can reuse anywhere that we want to display an instructor.